I ended up moving to France at the age of 13 on my own. That 13-year-old kid was hurting a lot. I would cry myself to sleep every single night for the first 3 months. I really had to figure things out and find my place in this new environment. I started playing football when I was about 4 years old. And I was a very shy kid. My mission in life has always been to make the world a better place in some way, shape, or form. Like that's always been what has been really in my heart.
So do you think it's very important to have a very strong mindset?
I think it's the most important thing. It's not just about mindset and kind of what you're telling yourself. It's genuinely about who you are, like your identity. It's everything. Without the right mindset, without the understanding of who you are, it's very, very hard to then navigate things. And you can't give something that you do not have. You can't make something happen with things that you just don't have yourself. If you want to show up with happiness for other people, you have to show up with happiness for yourself. So it all starts within. So when you're able to show up as the truest version of yourself, that's when you're vibrating at the highest frequency. So that's when you're able to actually make a difference in other people's lives in a way that you've always wanted to. Imagine a world where all human beings were operating from that. Who are you when everything else goes away?
Welcome to Life with Purpose. So welcome to my podcast, and this is my first podcast and I'm really excited. You know what? This has been a dream of mine and I'm actually making it a reality today. So my first guest is a very, very special guest. His name is Rehan. His name is Rehan Rayani, and he was actually a football player, professional football player, and he's now a certified life coach. Welcome, Rehan. How are you doing?
I'm doing well. Thank you so much for having me, and congratulations on taking action on this and making this happen. It's really cool.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. So tell me, how did you go about traveling to France? Because I was actually reading that you did travel to France when you were 13 years old. How your journey began in terms of you playing football, because I know you're very passionate about it, right? So how did it all begin for you?
Great question. So I started playing football when I was about 4 years old. Like as a little kid, I'm pretty sure my parents received something in the mail of like, this like local team and things like that. So they pretty much signed me up and I went for the first time ever with my dad. And there were all these kids from different places. I'd never met any of them before. And I was a very shy kid. So on that very first day, I was hiding behind my dad, like holding on to his pants. I was like, don't put me there. I was crying. I was so shy, so nervous, right? And that is the beginning of my football journey, literally. And then eventually, I did step onto the pitch. I didn't touch the ball that first day at all. But then slowly, I started to play a little bit more. And eventually I fell in love with the game. And from a very young age, you see all these professional players, on TV and you're like, wow, I really want to be like that one day. I want to play professionally. And my mission in life has always been to make the world a better place in some way, shape, or form. Like that's always been what has been really in my heart. And because of my passion with football, I was like, let me use that as a vehicle to do that. And as a young kid, I was like, oh, I'm going to become a professional, have all this money and fame, and I'm going to use that to make a difference eventually.
Okay.
But then very early on, I just realized like, why do I have to wait for that? Right. So I kind of, was doing both of those things simultaneously. And I joined an academy, in Canada, because that's where I'm from. And that's where all of this was happening when I was about 10 years old. And with this academy, we'd go on these international trips. So went to Mexico, went to Chile, and then went to the UK as well. Played against like Manchester City's youth academy. And from that exposure, I realized that the level of play elsewhere was so much bigger. And, if I really wanted to make this dream come true, I had to do things differently. So at the age of 12, I was like, okay, I'm going to write down this goal. I wrote down a goal. I was like, I'm going to move to Europe to pursue my dream of becoming a professional footballer.
So where did you travel to?
So I initially, so I mentioned like those countries before, right? So Mexico, Chile, and thing that was before, but then I went to France.
Yes.
So France was the big country. And so, when I was 13, I ended up moving after doing a lot of research and going on trials and all of that. I ended up moving to France at the age of 13 on my own. I had a grandmother who lived there, so I was very lucky to at least have someone. A few years after that, though, she did end up going to Canada to be with the family because everyone was over there. I moved to France, and that was like the beginning of this crazy, impactful, fulfilling journey for me.
Nice.
Yeah.
So when you were in France, Were you staying with your grandma or were you staying in a hostel or what was it like?
So in the beginning, I was with my grandma, so I was lucky. I was like with, with family. She had just lost her husband, so my grandfather, literally a month before I moved. So I think both of us were able to be each other's support system.
Nice.
I was not with my parents and my sister and my family, and she had just lost, the most important person to her. So we were kind of able to be there for each other and support each other that way, which was needed, to say the least. And then eventually, yeah, a few years later, she moved to Canada to be with the family, and then I stayed on over there with like I was renting out a room at a family's house and things like that. So yeah,
So, how was it being alone in a totally different country? How would you uplift yourself, empower yourself, inspire yourself
yeah,
every single day? You were alone.
mm,
Obviously, you didn't know anybody. You did start making friends eventually.
yeah. It
So, what was that journey like?
was a crazy one. When I look back to it, and if I were to put myself in the situation of that little kid who had moved, I would say that it was very challenging in the beginning, right? Now looking back on it, I can have a completely different perspective. It was like the most formative years of my life and it helped me become who I am today. So there's only gratitude towards that experience. But definitely in the moment, that 13-year-old kid was hurting a lot. Like I would cry myself to sleep every single night for the
Yeah.
first 3 months of being there, missing family, um, trying to figure out and navigate just living in a new country, not necessarily speaking the language the way everyone else was. So I was kind of like, put to the side and I really had to figure things out and find my place in this new environment. I was very lucky with football, however, because immediately over there, when you play football and you're part of some football program, or whatever, you kind of have like a tribe. You have people that you can connect with, and you're also looked at as like a footballer and stuff. So it's a bit different. So I was lucky I had that, and at the same time, like it was a challenge. It was definitely a challenge. But it came to a point where eventually I had to make a decision. The decision was understanding that this is a choice that I made, right? No one has forced this upon me. And because I've made this choice, the decision was to either go at it fully, right? Embrace it, take responsibility, and just move forward, or to feel sorry for myself for whatever reason and, maybe eventually even go back and just let it all go.
Yeah.
Um, and I made the decision to just take responsibility and to just push forward.
Nice.
And yeah,
So,
that's how things just kickstarted.
oh, cool. So, do you feel that mindset plays a strong it's very important for you to have a very strong mindset,
Mm,
especially when you're on your own in
yeah,
a different country.
yeah.
Do you and you're getting used to the different culture, the food, being on your own. So do you think it's very important to have a very strong mindset?
I think it's the most important thing.
Okay.
And I'll even take it a step further. It's not just about mindset and kind of what you're telling yourself. It's genuinely about who you are, like your identity. It's
Yes.
everything. Understanding who you are. And I think when you're that young, you're trying to figure out who you are.
Yes.
And I think for me, I was forced into an environment where I had to figure that out very quickly
Yeah.
and to lock in with that identity, because then without that I would have been lost throughout that whole process. So yes, it's mindset and it's identity, and I think
Yeah.
the two of them go hand in hand. I think that they're very intertwined, because without the right mindset, without the understanding of who you are, it's very, very hard to then navigate things. And, it's easy to be influenced by other things and other people and to not make choices for yourself that you think are going to be the best choices for you. So there's so many things that go into it. But yeah, to answer your question, mindset definitely is, I would say, the number one thing, right? And with that comes the identity and everything else.
Nice.
Yeah.
So the next question that I want to ask you is, you are a certified life coach.
hmm
So what made you go into life coaching?
So I think this goes back to what I was saying before about how my mission in life has always been to help people.
Yeah.
And as I was going on my journey, I also realized that there's so many people that are going on their own journey. And we're not just talking about young people or footballers, we're talking about human beings. Every single person on this planet has their own story, a story that they're telling themselves in their heads, but then
Yes.
also a story that they're living,
Yeah.
right? And I early on understood the value when it comes to personal growth, personal development, leadership, mindset, all of these things that help me as an individual. And as I started to learn these things for myself and apply them to my life and step into that version of myself, I quickly understood that this is something that I believe if everyone has access to this and everyone's able to step into that version of themselves, the world will be a better place. So
Excellent. That's
yeah,
what I like.
yeah. So that's how it happened. It was like, well, if I love helping people in all these different ways, whether that's through philanthropy, humanitarian work, but then also coaching, also, through like the events that I run and that I speak at. All of it is aligned with just becoming the best version of yourself, ultimately.
Amazing. Amazing.
So yeah, that's why the life coaching element came into it. I think I needed also to add a bit of credibility because there's some people who like to know that, oh, this guy has a paper that is associated to his name, because I didn't go to college or university. I didn't take that route. So it was also a way for me to get the certification, was also just a way to get some credibility to what I do, on top of all the experience and the understanding that I have.
So, do you ever regret not going to university or college?
Not at all.
Not at all.
Not at all. It was a decision that I think going back to again what I was saying before about knowing who I was at a young age, it was something that I knew I didn't want to go and do
Yeah.
because I had a very strong understanding of who I was, what I wanted for myself, and what needed to be done for me to achieve the things that I wanted to achieve. So I had that at a very young age. There was a lot of football that was involved there, right? So, playing football pretty much full time after my high school time. And then also going into like, creating a business and doing the things that I'm doing right now. And I could easily say like right now I'd be pretty much graduating university at my age if I had gone that route. And to look at the things that I've been able to do so far and who I've become as a result of it, there's absolutely no regrets.
Ah,
Yeah.
that's nice to hear.
Yeah.
So, do you feel that having a university degree is very important for you to succeed in life and grow?
So as a blanket statement, no. I think that for certain careers, right?
Yes.
So if you are looking to be, I don't know, like a doctor, a lawyer, or even an actor or an actress or a musician or something like that, and you think that taking the university path and the college path is going to enable you to get better at those specific fields and hone in on your talents and nurture your skills, if you think that it's necessary for that path of yours, then 100%, like, please take that route if you think that it is the right thing for you. I don't think that it is the only way to go. I think that there are some people who just work differently and who want to figure things out a different way,
Yeah.
who have different plans. So it's not a I don't think in the world that we live in today, I don't think that it is the only solution. I don't even think that it is the right solution. I think that there are different solutions to different, circumstances and objectives and goals that we're all trying to reach.
Yeah.
So I would just say that not that anyone needs to take my advice on anything, but when it comes to making a decision like that, it is
Yeah.
such a big decision because it's time, it's a financial investment too. As long as it is aligned with what you're going for, then I think it's a right choice for you. If it's a thing where you're like, oh, I'm going to go to college and university just because I don't know what I want to do, I want to kind of figure it out over there. Cool, right? That's an option. There are other ways to do that too. Like you can, I don't know, spend a year traveling if you want to with the same amount of money, or do other things that will help you discover what that thing is for you. Or you can go into a different field and just start working, or there's so many different options. All that to say that I do not think that university or college is the only route. And actually, in today's world, I don't think it's the safest route either.
Yeah. Now, it's nice to have a different perspective. Obviously, there are certain professions like lawyers, doctors, they do have to have a university
Degree.
degree in order to know now go into the next phase. But I quite agree with you. And I actually saw your video about the young youth summit that you went to in Romania.
Yeah.
How was that? Like, how was that experience? What was it like? Like, I saw the whole video and I was like, oh, wow. I mean, to be able to stand in front of so many people, have that confidence to talk about what you really love, what you're really passionate about. How was that experience being in a new country where you were there for the first time? You've never been there. So, what was that like?
Yeah, very cool. I've had the opportunity and the privilege to attend and be a part of, speak at, facilitate almost 10 youth leadership summits now at this
And you
point.
started at 15, if I'm not wrong.
I started speaking for the first time when I was 15.
Yes.
Actually, my parents told me a really cool story where I actually spoke in front of my school when I was 11 for the first time on happiness. I don't even remember that. They have a recording of it apparently, so if we can find that, that'd be cool. So there was a bit of that already kind of there, the shy kid was holding in a lot, but it was definitely there and definitely present. But then, yeah, after I attended a youth leadership summit for myself when I was 15, that's when things really shifted for me, and I found this passion. So yeah, since then, especially in the past 2 to 3 years, actually no, it's only been 2 years. Past 2 years, I've been able to participate, like coach
Mhm.
at, facilitate, and speak at many different events. So did one in Kenya, did one in Las Vegas, one in California, one in Romania. We just did another one in Kenya,
Okay.
doing another one in Vegas, doing one in Martinique in August. So like there's a lot of these events that are happening. The one specifically in Romania was very cool, very interesting because it was a new culture, new group of people, like people that obviously I've never met before, and being able to like step into that role and deliver certain content for them and create like a transformational experience and be a part of that with like the organizations that were organizing it and everything. It was very, very cool. I think the one thing that I would take away from it is that human beings, when it comes to the essence of who we are, we're all the same.
Yes, I
When it
agree
comes
with
to our
that.
essence, we are all the same. Yes, we have these cultural differences and these like almost these masks that are there and that present themselves in very different ways, but at the core, we're all the same. And when you're able to connect with an individual in that way, then you just realize that yeah, it's all we're all the same. We're all human, human beings at the essence and at the core, and they're fundamental truths, almost like rules, about how we operate and what we need
Yeah.
to function and to thrive in today's world, that are just universal, which is really cool, and it transcends like cultures, countries, and yeah, it's a cool thing.
So, on an energy level, we are actually all one.
Yeah,
It's just that we all vibrate at different
frequencies.
frequencies at the end of the day. Um, this is a question I wanted to ask you since you're a certified life coach and
Hmm.
how important this is, because I think a lot of people don't really understand how important it is that when we go through inner child healing, I think it's very, very important because we're like a sponge from the age of 0 to 7,
Yeah,
and we have a tendency to absorb everything that we see around us.
yeah,
Obviously, when we're born, it's like, we're so innocent, we have this unconditional love, and everything is like you're bursting with energy. And obviously, when you grow, as you grow, you have a tendency to go through experiences. You have parents around you who have their own belief systems, their own thoughts, their own way of doing things, and you have a tendency to absorb quite a bit. So, how important is it to go through inner child healing for each and every person in order to live the life of their dreams? And something that they've may have ignored or may be ignorant about, don't know about. How important do you think that is?
I think it is one of the most impactful, important, and powerful things that an individual can do. And I'll actually I'll answer this question from the perspective of just me as a human being versus as a life coach. So in October, I was in Sicily for a retreat that I was running over there. And part of this retreat, we did this breathwork exercise. And in this breathwork exercise, my experience was very, very powerful. Where the outcome that I had from that exercise was that it is okay for me to not be okay sometimes, right?
Yeah.
There's a lot of times where I feel like I have to present myself as like this strong person so I can be there for people and hold space for people. But the reality is like sometimes I also have to take care of myself and just like it's okay for me to not be okay sometimes. It's okay for me to be human, right? To have these emotions. So I went through that experience, and what I realized was that when I had this breathwork experience, it sounds crazy, but I was crying for 2 to 3 hours, like nonstop. And there
Wow.
was a lot of sadness that I hadn't expressed, from way back when, that was living inside of me, that was somehow trapped in my nervous system. And it was like this little kid, right, that was there that hadn't healed from certain things and that hadn't had the opportunity to address certain things because maybe he had to stay strong in certain moments and be strong. And it was that kid that was able to come out and to express himself for the first time in a while. And it was so liberating. It was honestly one of the most liberating feelings ever. And since then, I've never felt more connected with the world and with human beings, with nature, with just our planet, with everything. And it comes from that vulnerability. It comes from that healing. It comes from that awareness. It comes from that inner child. That a lot of the work that I do with the people that I work with, whether it's like youth or the football players that I coach, or at these events that I speak at, a lot of the content that I deliver is about the inner child.
Yeah.
It's about identity, right? Understanding who you are and reconnecting with that younger version of yourself, because that younger version of ourselves is like the playful, curious, kind, respectful, loving. That's the essence of what it is to be a human being, in my opinion. So to be able to reconnect with that and to let that version of yourself live in you, I think is everything,
Yes,
because I think that's where our power comes from.
definitely. I
So
completely
and
agree.
that's where the most connection is and everything. So it's like if imagine a world where all human beings were operating from that.
It'll be awesome.
It would be incredible, right? It would be so cool.
I think it would be the best world we'll be living in.
Yeah. Yeah.
But no, I also feel the same way because my coaching journey actually started a couple of years ago. So when I go more and more into inner child healing, I actually realize that a lot of us don't really know about it and how important it is. And you're right, sometimes we become so inauthentic and we like disconnect from our true core of who we really are,
Mm,
true essence of who we really are. And we don't really realize that we're actually putting on a mask and we're being somebody that,
yeah.
we're just trying to show the world a different part of us that's not us. Yeah.
Mm,
And I totally, totally agree with you over there. So I think this was one of the questions where I was like, really taken aback, where I was like, oh my God, I didn't realize how inner child healing was so important.
yeah.
Like you just said, you were crying for 2 to 3 hours.
Yeah.
I'm sure it must be so liberating. It must be like you must have felt like a whole heavy burden is off you. You must have
Mm,
felt so much lighter, so much calmer, and so much happier.
yeah.
So I think it's very important that everyone realizes that working on themselves is very important. Do
Yeah.
you feel that people should? I mean, I know everybody keeps on living in that rut of their life where it's like a rat race, yeah?
Yeah.
Waking up in the morning, having your breakfast, rushing to work, you have a family, you have responsibilities, you may have a wife or husband, you may have children, you may have parents to look after. But where do you come in there?
Mm,
Do you think it's important that people realize that they need to work on themselves? That it's very important to connect with who they really are?
100%. The idea, for example, if you want to give someone apple juice, you have to have apples, right? You can't give something that you do not have. You can't make something happen with things that you just don't have yourself. If you want to show up with love for other people, you have to show up with love for yourself. If you want to show up with happiness for other people, you have to show up with happiness for yourself. So it all starts within. Everything starts with, even leadership. Leadership is one of the biggest qualities, right, when it comes to human beings and how
Yes.
how we're able to show up. And that starts not with like being the loudest person in the room and being able to guide people. It starts with self leadership. It starts within. It starts with, I have like these 5 pillars that I talk about all the time, but it's self responsibility, right? Taking responsibility and ownership for yourself, self value. So loving yourself, trusting who you are, self discovery, discovering, pretty much discovering who you are and what you want for yourself, what your values are, what you value in your life, committing to growth. So self growth constantly, and then service, right?
Brilliant.
Giving to yourself so that you can give to other people.
Yes.
That's how it all starts. So it all starts within. And I think like that's why identity is such a big thing. The inner child is such a big thing, because all of that is intertwined
Yes.
to discovering who you truly are. And then once you have that, then you can give that authentic version of yourself to the world. We mentioned frequencies, right? They've done studies where they've been able to measure frequencies.
Yes.
And the highest frequency that they were able to measure was not love, it wasn't happiness, it was authenticity.
Yeah.
So authenticity, when you're able to show up as the truest version of yourself, that's when you're vibrating at the highest frequency. So that's when you're able to actually make a difference in other people's lives in a way that you've always wanted to, right? Or
Yes.
you're able to give in a way. So it's tuning into that
Frequency.
reality, that
Yes.
frequency, that truth, that authenticity. That's what makes the big difference. So that's why, yes, it is the most important thing to work on yourself, because otherwise, who are you when everything else goes away? Who are you when, your kids go to college? Who are you when you're literally in your own company, in a room that is blank,
Yes.
who are you? Are you able to, still be happy, still be grateful, still, have fun, smile, laugh? If you are, amazing. If you're not, then there's a process of like discovering who you are and enjoying your own company, building a relationship with yourself that is necessary for you to live a quality of life that you want to live.
Ah, I love the way you said it. I think it's just hit the nail on the head. So, one more question I wanted to ask you
Yeah.
is, do you think it's very important to live a life of purpose?
Yes. All human beings do everything for a reason. There's a why behind everything. Like if I were to tell you right now, Meera, I want you to run outside in the rain, you know, back and forth, right? And then come back inside. Why? Just for whatever reason. You'd look at me like, I don't really want to do that, right? But then if I were to tell you, okay, I want you to do that. And if you do that, you know what I'll do? I'll feed 1,000 families. If you go out and you do that, right? Because I know that you're purpose driven. So I'll go and I'll feed 1,000 families, okay? And sustainably. So you'd be like, okay, fine. I'll do it. Why? Well, because there's a purpose, there's a reason behind it. We do everything in our lives for a reason. We get up in the morning at a certain time for a reason. There's always a reason behind everything that we do. And purpose is that why, right? And it's different for everyone. I think there's a misconception with purpose where it's like, oh, it's not like every single human being needs to think about like saving the world necessarily. I don't think that that's the truth. I
No.
think there's some people who will make it their purpose, sure.
Yeah.
Like they want to, focus on things like the environment, or they want to focus on things like, personal growth, or they want to focus on philanthropy, or they want to focus on clean water, whatever it is, right? People will find their purpose in different ways. For some people, it is simply, I want to take care of my kids. I want to be the best parent that I can be. That is purpose. That is still very, very powerful.
Yeah.
So it's interesting because do people need to focus on living a life of purpose? Sure. But I think understanding that we already are. Like we already are doing things for a purpose. And I think choosing what you want that purpose to be and having something in your life that is greater than just yourself will inevitably increase the quality of your life.
No, definitely. Like even a simple thing like just putting a smile on somebody's face a day, you're right? Making that conscious decision of putting a smile on somebody's face just by saying hello.
Yeah.
Hi, how are you doing? I think that's a purpose,
Mm-hmm.
right?
It's a choice. Yeah.
It's a choice that you've made.
Yeah.
But waking up, what do you think is the first thing when you wake up in the morning? What is the first thing which is very, very important that people forget about? I'll tell you mine, and then
Yeah. Tell me, what is yours?
mine is being grateful
Yeah.
for being alive
Yeah.
and being in this world.
Yeah.
I think for me, being grateful has just changed everything for me. What about you?
Yeah. It's the same. It's the same. And so there's a concept that a friend of mine, he's talked to me about it, and then I've run workshops on this concept, and I talk about it a lot. It's about emotions and how there's above the line emotions and below the line emotions,
Yes.
right? So you have like a neutral line. The above the line emotions are things like love, kindness,
Bliss.
like bliss, yeah, happiness,
Appreciation.
joy, yeah.
Yes.
And then below the line is like things like anger,
Shame.
frustration, shame, guilt, jealousy, right?
Yeah.
So you have these above the line emotions and below the line emotions. There's one above the line emotion that when you're feeling that emotion in any situation, it is impossible to feel a below the line emotion.
Brilliant.
And it's
Yes.
gratitude.
Yes.
Because even in the hardest times, even like, and I will use a very extreme example. Let's say the person that you love the most on this planet passes away. You lose someone that is extremely dear to you. Yes, there's sadness involved. Yes, there's all of that, right? There's pain, there's grief, which many would think are below the line emotions. Gratitude in that moment, if you're just grateful for the time that you've spent with that person, for who they are, right? You come at it from that place, you're only feeling that.
Yeah.
You're only feeling that gratitude, you're feeling that love, you're feeling above, you will never feel anything below the line
Yes.
in that moment.
Yes.
So when you're coming at life from a place of gratitude, you're just living a life that is automatically, no matter what your situation is, no matter where you're coming from. Like I just spent time in Kibera. Literally an hour ago, I was in the slums, walking through there. And these kids that I'm seeing, all of them have smiles on their faces.
Yes.
And they're Some of them are playing with like, tires, and they're just like having the best time ever. Because in that moment, the understanding is like they're just living life and they're grateful and they're there. Like that's it. And we come across people in lives where it's like, yeah, like they're gonna be sorry,
Yeah,
like
that's all right.
there are people who, like, yeah, their phone isn't working properly and they're like, they're frustrated about it, and things like that. It's like, well, if we just take time to just appreciate like this now, in the moment, just being here right now and appreciating the fact that we are living and we have the opportunity to be here, the odds of us being here are already astronomically small.
Yes,
For us to even be alive, for us to be having this conversation right now, it's not even a one in a million. It is like one in I don't know how many trillions. It is such a small odd,
it is.
yet we're here.
Yeah,
That on its own is a blessing, right?
no, definitely.
I think for some people though, life can get really challenging to a point where it's very hard to like just shift the focus on into gratitude and to just focus on that. And a lot of the times it feels like there's no choice.
Yes,
It feels like, we don't have a choice to be grateful because there's just so much going on. And I don't want to say this lightly, but I think that if we understand that we always have a choice,
we do have a choice.
we always have a choice, and we can always choose to be grateful.
No, definitely. You know what? We always have a choice every single day. It's up to us to choose what is going to give us and make us get to that level of bliss
Yeah.
at the end of the day. Yeah. So being grateful, even for this moment, being in this moment right now. Today, I actually said I'm very grateful that you are actually part of my podcast. There is a reason I think our frequencies matched for us to be here today.
Yeah.
Right? So it's all about making a choice
Always.
all the time, right? No, but thank you. Thank you so much, Rehan, for being a part of Life with Purpose. You are leading one. And I'm very grateful that, I had this opportunity to do this podcast with you. And I feel very grateful. And hopefully we will see you soon making a very big impact. I know there are a lot of projects that you are doing all around the world.
Yeah.
And I know you're planning something for Kenya. And I'm looking forward to sharing another podcast with you where you're going to tell me what you're going to be doing.
Sounds great.
And yeah, it's nice to have you. Thank you so much, everybody, for watching my podcast today. And if you do like it, please do subscribe to the channel. And this is all about life with purpose, leading a life full of purpose. Thank you so much. It's Meera signing off. Bye-bye.